Welcome to another edition of the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. Super excited that you can be a part of this incredible show going from the hours of 7 to 8. First and foremost, I want you to stay connected to the show. Two very easy ways to do that. If you're watching right now, Facebook Live, go ahead and comment. I will make sure that every comment that is posted, I will read it. And then if it's for my guest, I will make sure that he has the opportunity to interact with you. In addition to that, we are live on YouTube as well. So again, Facebook Live and YouTube Live. If you're watching via Facebook Live, go ahead and put your comments in the chat. I want to make sure that you are a part of the show because without you, I can tell you that Rashad Mills Show does not exist. So with that being said, I want to welcome in my wonderful guest joining us from Atlanta, Georgia, a mental health professional, and he is the founder of Serenity Seekers, which is an organization that helps people move from shame and guilt about mental health and then substance abuse, their particular struggles to a place of pride, achievement, and resilience. So bring in my main man, Justin Murray. Justin, how are you?
Man, I am better than ever. Man, it's a pleasure and honor to be on the show. Rashad, bow tie. I like that bow tie as well. Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm doing good, feeling good, man, and just ready to help as many people as I can.
Man, thank you so much for joining me on the show. And with many of my guests, I literally just watch people's work. And then I think I saw your name was connected for something that we'll talk about a little bit later in the show with what boys and men need. One of the people that I follow via Instagram, the Trap Therapist.
Oh, yeah.
So this amazing circle of therapists, social workers like you and others. So I started following your work. And when I saw it, to be honest, the word Serenity Seekers, I'm like, let me really follow this brother's work and then get you connected to the show. So one of the things, Justin, first and foremost, I know you're based in Atlanta, Georgia, right?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I have to start with the most pressing thing for a person that looks like you and I, men of color. You're based in Atlanta. I'm going to throw out the name, my dear brother. Unfortunately, he's no longer here with us. Rashad Brooks. Kind of give me your thoughts on that and give me sort of the temperature of Atlanta, Georgia right now.
Well, you know, man, rest in peace to Rashad Brooks. You know, that really hit close to home. I want you all to know the Wendy's, that's in my neighborhood. That's in the neighborhood I grew up in. That's Summer Hill, Peoplestown. So I'm from that area. They call it Zone 3. That's
wow. Okay.
That's what the area that the police, you know, those are Zone 3 police officers, kind of like the precinct is Zone 3. And we kind of named that area of town Zone 3. But it's the communities of Summer Hill and Peoplestown. And ironically, that's one of the only restaurants that's over there in that area. So, you know, while I was thinking about, you know, why he was at that Wendy's, it makes me think about, you know, how many other food options would he have had if he was trying to get some food to sober up? Like, could he have been anywhere else in the world, but not in that area? There was nowhere else to go for food. And so it created this whole thought about systemic racism for me. But I was so upset that the brother lost his life at what could have been handled so differently from police officers. And when, you know, the video was exposed and then kind of the different videos where the conversation with the first officer took place, who obviously was, you know, less of an aggressive officer, you know, who probably would have, you know, even given them a break. I think I heard him say, hey, why don't you just go over there and take a nap, you know? And then this other officer arrives and you start seeing just like that jerk police officer that you're used to dealing with on a regular basis arrive. And then you just see things spiraling downward for the brother and to the point where he felt first with all that was going on in the world, you know, he was scared. And not to mention, he didn't want to be deprived of his liberty for something that he felt like, you know, hey, man, I just fell asleep in the car and I was willing, I've been respectful, willing to comply. And when you try to arrest me, you know, I'm certainly sure he did not think he was going to not make it home afterwards. Wow. So, you know, I'm enraged. I'm upset that the temperature is fire hot in Atlanta, as it should be. And, you know, I see the media making it die down just a tad. Like, nah, it's still active right now. And, you know, I don't want media to control the narrative like the protests aren't more important than the pandemic that's happening or whatever Trump does. It's outrageous next, you know. So it's shows like this, it's platforms like this, it's our Instagram, our Facebook platforms that we got to let them know that it's still live and in effect and people are still mad and upset. Absolutely.
Wow, it's incredibly significant. I know that you're based in Atlanta, but literally that's an area in which that you
Yeah.
actually grew up in. So I know that hit home on another level. Interestingly enough, two of my first guests that chimed in, Karen Young, a cousin of mine, you can see in the chat that she said
Let's
she
shout out Karen.
and my good brother Gary Richardson,
All
Baltimore,
right.
and is now in Atlanta. So we talking about
Okay.
people can feel this on a like real level that you can actually feel. So as a mental health professional, I guess my next question would be, as a man of color and with so much has been going on in the world, probably within the last 3 weeks to a month, as it relates to the onslaught by, I call them the gang, which is the boys in blue.
Okay.
How have you as a Black man been able to cope, and what kind of practical strategies can you offer somebody watching the show right now? Just kind of basic coping skills to offer them to kind of help themselves throughout the situation.
All right. So, I mean, as a serenity seeker, I pride myself on, being calm is the highest achievement of self to me. But how do you stay calm when your people getting killed? Honestly, like that would be somebody who wasn't even in tune emotionally. And so, man, I've been raised. I was re-triggered, with some old traumas that I've experienced and endured in my life. I had my uncle was killed by the police in the Watch riots in '65, which made me think about my mom who isn't here anymore, and I went the dead homies. So I found myself spiraling out of control. That loss of hope, that loss of trust was there. Just feeling anxious about my nephews and my family going out into the streets to protest, or just being young and Black or Black period. So I was experiencing all of these symptoms of racism, all of these mental health symptoms of racism. And I find myself having to up the ante even more on my coping strategies, right? Which means the discipline, I can't stray away from the discipline, So for me, it's wake up, pray. After I pray, meditate. After I meditate, exercise, read. And now what I switched was my reading materials, which may have been something to improve my mental health as a mental health professional. Now it's more geared towards learning how can I undo systemic racism and structural racism. And now it's more of an empowerment reading. Claude Anderson, Powernomics. What can we do to change this? And I'm getting a lot of, I'm kind of rebuilding that hope back. Not quite on that trust part yet, but rebuilding that hope back. And so just like little things like that, create a self-care routine for yourself where you take time for yourself every day, right? Because the minute you cut on the TV, the minute you go out into the world, the minute you cut on the radio, the minute you go to work, it's not about you anymore. And that little piece. So find time to make time for yourself and create healthy routines, whether that's prayer, meditation, reading, exercise, eating well, sleeping well. Like these are all practical things that we could do to make sure that we're emotionally stable and ready to take on the fight.
Justin, I absolutely love the way that you phrase that, up the ante, right? And so it's one of these things that if you and I mental health professionals, we sort of practice what we preach, and we have this ability to engage in these things on a regular basis. But I think sometimes people wait until a moment happens and then they want to engage in something. So I think it's so incredibly important to sort of have this baseline of engaging in healthy coping skills, but situations and traumas, and they will arise. That's just a part of the inevitable cycle of life. We got to up that ante and make sure that we sort of double down on these particular things. So I think for the African-American community, man, mental health has been the last month, man, it's probably been more of a priority. How has that been for you as a professional? What changes have you seen in the last 30 to 45 days in terms of, has it been people coming in, more inquiries about the services? What has that been like for you?
Yep, absolutely. So professionally, I work during the day. I'm a forensic social worker with the City of Atlanta Public Defender's Office. And so we had been, kind of working remotely and working with our high risk clients, which are basically our homeless clients and our severely mentally ill clients and clients that we already have in placements. But I also do private practice at a Black-owned therapy, at a Black-owned agency. I want to shout out my mentor, Dr. Gerald Rett, who's the owner of that agency where we do private practice. And I have seen an influx specifically in Black clients, right? And I was telling someone that, about 95% of my self-referred clients are Black people seeking services from a Black male because they need that Black male's perspective about how to handle things right now. And so there was a huge influx in in almost everyone of color's individual caseload from the pandemic. People, especially with the kind of encouragement of telehealth, kind of help break that. Again, you and I were talking a little bit before the show. People started identifying that they were having issues with addiction. You got to be in this house with your loved one, and we're bickering a little bit more than we need. So I had a bunch of couples signing up. We have people who lost jobs, so we have the depression and anxiety related to job loss, and just kind of adjustment disorder about what this looks like for them. So we saw an increase in that, and I was happy to see my people taking advantage of either using their insurances or just coming out and getting some self-pay services.
So go ahead. Let's jump into this particular part of the show, and talk about serenity seekers, right? What that is, and then even before you kind of explain what it is, I want you. And I know you're going to be open, honest, and candid, and kind of explain your own personal challenges. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm just elated to have you on the show. Is because I know this can be healing for somebody watching the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio, Facebook Live, and then YouTube Live as well. They can literally be set free. So kind of tell me about, what the challenges that you face in your own personal struggles with substance abuse issues.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think going back as far as I can remember, at least till I was 7 or 8 years old, I kind of struggled with knowing that the playing field wasn't even for me. I went to school I went to a mixed school, a pretty diverse school where Georgia had a transfer program where they would pick up kids from the hood and take them out to schools in the suburbs so they could get a better education. And they called it the magnet transfer program. And I remember back when I was in like the second or third grade, I had a couple of Caucasian friends. I remember going to their house on like play dates. And their houses were, these nice 2-story, 3-story houses. They were huge. They had all the toys in the world, nice manicured lawns. And I remember coming back to my house like, Mom, hold up. How come they got more than us like that? How come Alan and Alec got more than us? How come they got more than the people that I know from over here combined? And I remember she did her best to kind of break down some stuff to me. But I remember from there, I felt different from them, right? And so I segregated myself almost at the same time with just the people who I rode the school bus with from the neighborhood there. And to be honest, my mom tried her best but there was this lingering sense of inadequacy and inferiority that was placed, right? And I took that, and it kind of stayed there, and my family is Black and proud. So, for me to have the parents that I have and grew up in the environment I grew up in regards to me learning my history and culture, it was always this wedge of that experience in there. And I always felt like I knew I had to work harder. And I felt like, that was one hell of a burden for somebody to have to bear. And when I looked at what people had in my area who were hardworking and going out there and busting their butts just to end up here, I think I kind of started having symptoms of depression at a really early age.
Wow.
And so I'm somebody who was an extrovert and enjoyed being around people. And by the time I was, 13 years old, I started experimenting with drugs and alcohol. And I remember when I first started to experiment, it gave me that feeling of finally being free from that burden. It finally was pushed that wedge away where I didn't care about that stuff anymore. And from there, I was always looking for ways to feel free in white America. Wow. And that was the trajectory of my addiction there. Even going through as somebody who went through college and things like that, I never felt like the American dream was attainable. And I think that kind of set the tone, to kind of set a cap for my growth. And that always, was just something that was heavy on my shoulders for me. But long story, not to make a long story short, I 13, 14, I became involved with drugs. I started getting into some other deviant behaviors in regard to making some bad choices and engaging in criminal activity. Uh, and from there, it was just hand in hand. I felt like I had found my space, right? I found like, okay, well, I could make some money, I could get some respect, I could get some things, I could get some things that I wanted that my family couldn't afford for me. But on a side note from that was I had this split in my community because my mom was from Michigan and educated, my dad was educated, that in my community I was the oddball because I talked grammatically correct.
Wow.
And I went to a different school. So I
Wow.
always had
Wow.
this thing like you can't be too smart, you can't be, you can't be too good, you can't be too bad. And so I had a lot of these things going on, and I was just kind of in a space where I was lost, but engaging in drugs and alcohol made me feel one with the community or my peer group at that time, and engaging in criminal activity as well. And so what continued to happen was I continued to spiral out of control, and I ended up getting in a lot of trouble during my collegiate years. And when I came back home, I had my best friend get murdered. That kind of set off another. This is about 22 years old. I started another downward spiral there.
Mm.
I got shot when I was 20 years old. So I
Wow.
kind of had some. I know I'm all over the place with it, but
No, you're fine. People need to hear.
get shot when I was 20. Best friend murdered when I was 22, and about a year after that, I think that's where I gave up, brother. And that's where it was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna just thug it out for the rest of my life. And
Mm.
and what I meant was I was just gonna sell drugs, party like a rock star, and then just enjoy every day like it was my last, because I really didn't see. I knew one day soon that was gonna be my last day.
So you had at that point, you didn't even see, like you probably didn't even see you making it to this point in your life where you are now, successful as you are.
Oh no, this is a blessing. This was
Uh,
this and let me give credit where credit was due. I met a girl when I was 28, and she was like, you got so much potential. I look at all your friend group, everybody looks at you as a leader. Your reputation, in Atlanta was like you're a leader. What's happening in your life. I know we having a good time right now, but what you gonna do with yourself? And I was like, I'm not absolutely sure. I don't even think I'm gonna make it to 31. So
wow.
I hadn't put that all together. She said, well, you were really close to graduating from school. And I said, yeah, but again, I felt like that it was a cap to my potential. And I was like, yeah, but that don't mean nothing. I know people in school who doing the same thing I'm doing right now, who graduated from school. And though she essentially told me that she wasn't willing to be in my life and watch me destroy myself.
Mm.
And that was the first person, mom, dad, family, and all, who was willing to leave my life because I was destroying it. And they didn't want to be there to watch me self-destruct.
Wow. A
And
godsend.
so it's godsend. And that's why I said, oh man, I got to get my life together. I love this girl. I don't want her to leave. And that's when I first entered the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I wanted to, I came face to face. Now I had been incarcerated, I got 2 DUIs, I got, felony drug charge. I felt the legal consequences of it, right? I know people in my neighborhood who were, addicted to crack cocaine and drugs and alcohol. I've seen the plight of addiction as well.
Mm.
Uh, you know, my mom died from alcoholism as well.
Wow.
I'm familiar with the consequences of addiction, right? But I never knew that the relational consequence was going to be the one that was going to change my life. But ultimately it was the one that really pressed the button for me, that made sense. Like, oh, I got to get it together here.
Wow. So many powerful things that were just said there, Justin. I want to go back and kind of really go through it, because that was like a gumbo of powerful information. I want to make sure that we understand every ingredient that you just put in it.
Okay.
I just want to go ahead and say, my cousin Karen Young in Atlanta, she says, I've been there also. We are overcome by another one's testimony. Speak, bro, your truth will bring someone else out. And
Absolutely.
as I'm listening to you, like I had no idea of that you had gone through so much. And then I had no idea of so many similarities in your life and mine that existed,
Yeah.
being shot and the whole nine. But let's go back and dissect that. One of the most interesting things that you said was even at an early age, I'm talking between 7 to 13, it felt like it was an internal struggle that you had with being sort of, the kid from the hood, but I'm going out and I'm not around my friends from the hood, right?
Right.
And it's like a different world. But here's the most interesting thing about it. It's this racial sort of dichotomy that it's this racial dichotomy, that ultimately led to, I guess, some of the depressive symptoms, which ultimately sort of the catalyst for your addiction. I think that was incredibly interesting to me. Yeah. So now that you are in recovery, right, and been so is it 8 years? I want to make sure I got it correct. 8 years.
Absolutely.
Like the current state of race right now in the country is, I know you said that has triggered you, right?
Yeah.
I guess I word it this way: like, how have you viewed race right now, knowing what it's done in terms of your life? Like, how do you look back and see race right now, again, because of the impact where it started you?
Well, I mean, I look at racism as exactly the same way that it was. I still see the same inequalities that exist in. I'll be 40 this year. I see those same inequalities playing out right now in the school system and healthcare, with the wealth gap with our communities. Except for right now, what I'm seeing in my community is gentrification. So now we got the white people moving in, flushing out some of our community members who couldn't hold on to their property due to the property tax rising, and so we're impacted there. But I think we have not changed in regards to racism. So all this has done for me was re-energize my need to do my part to end structural racism as a whole. Like, I understand that right now the focus is on police reform and brutality and trying to end that. But my question for everybody now is, so what do you do after police stop killing Black people? What social conditions change for Black people that decrease the wealth gap and improve our lives, right? And so I think, me being a studier of many Black leaders, I see everyone has a different perspective about reparations, but there's no way that the social conditions of Black people change without some type of economic reform, whether that's reparations in land, money. I know people have been, if you follow me, you'll see my poster are extremely militant right now and certainly speak towards our need for economic reform. But it's just re-energized me to kind of advocate for the economic reform of Black people. And it made me just take it back to the streets again.
Wow. One of the gaps that you, I don't know if you mentioned this, but one of the gaps that I think that is racism, but people don't view it that way, is I think the disparity as it relates to non-Blacks receiving mental health treatment as opposed to Blacks. What is your thought on that in terms of just overall from the mental health perspective, that a lot of non-Blacks, they receive a lot more as it relates to mental health treatment. They are aware of a lot of more resources at a much younger age. And I think for a lot of Blacks, it is viewed as a problem, not necessarily, but a real mental health condition.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if we think about how we grew up, therapy wasn't, a table topic for us.
Not at all.
It wasn't, not at all. It was like, you go to church, pray it away. You're going to get through it. You got to tough it out. Like, that was the Black American way. Our resiliency was going to, allow us to get over things. And even though we never did it, we may have coped through it. And a lot of us may have chose unhealthy coping strategies to do that with. I think I'm appreciative of how mental health is being viewed right now for Black Americans. I just hope it's not a trend. I hope people can understand that it takes a lot of stick-to-itiveness. Right now, you're seeing more and more Black therapists emerge, graduate, become licensed, be degree, become credentialed, have their own private practices. And I think, social media and where we're at right now is helping, normalize therapy for Black families, for Black men, boys,
in a major way. Yep.
In a major way. And I think, and it's been a lot of brave souls to come out and tell them their struggles with addiction, their struggles with mental health issues, because we know we have always had these mental health issues. We've just been locked up about them, right? I told you I work for the public defender's office, and I have seen, and in private practice, you see who gets to come to your treatment groups that are court ordered. And I can see that. I can see the difference. Like, hold up. Now it's a lot more brothers over here than it is Caucasians. How come my groups are full of Caucasians? That means in court, we're not getting that opportunity. We're getting jail time instead of the opportunity to go to treatment. And so we have to have, so every city should have a public defender's office that offers a holistic defense strategy, that has a social worker and a mental health professional or a mental health professional in the courtrooms, letting people know, hey, this is a quality of life crime, this is homelessness, or this is a mental health issue, this is a substance abuse issue. Let's get them treatment instead of jail, or let's get them some mental health services instead of jail, or let's get them connected with some resources instead of jail. And I think because all of those are available already for people of non-color, because their families may be employed and have health insurance, that they can afford treatment. I think all of those has always been a little bit more palatable for them. When for blacks, it was like, we ain't even got the money to afford that, and we're not getting the opportunity in the courts to get that either.
Wow. Powerful. You're watching the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. You can view the show. Hopefully you're viewing it via Facebook Live. You can also watch it via YouTube Live as well. So we're almost at the bottom of the hour. I just want to chime in with all the comments. My dear brother, William Batts, one of the sharpest people in the mental health profession that I know. He says, speak your truth, good brother. Someone is going to be free. And then LaShonda Williams, the old face, is coming back around watching the Rashad Mills Show. She says, right. So people definitely understand what you're talking about. Here is the question for you. So once you go through this period of life where you literally see no hope, I mean, you're literally living a life, I should say, of hopelessness. And what was that moment, aside from that young lady where you said, I got to get it together? And then what was that thing that sparked you enough to create Serenity Seekers?
Well, I think I started to identify that my addiction was it was a solution for a long time, to some of the symptoms of depression and, the hopelessness and despair that I was experiencing as a Black man in America. And I recognized that it was a solution, but it had become a problem. Right. And so once I removed this problem from my life, I came face to face with, okay, now that this self-inflicted barrier is removed, what are you gonna do? And for me, it was like, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna be the best Justin I could be every day of my life, right? And what that means is that I started to take on one day at a time approach of being the best Justin that I could be. And that meant at work, that meant in the house, that meant in the community. And that's what really sparked that's what really led me into the mental health field. I was going to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I still do. And that's where not only did I meet my mentor, Dr. Gerald Redd, but this is where I started to recognize the impact my story had on people. Because it wasn't a lot. I was 30 at the time. It wasn't a lot of people in the rooms getting sober. And it certainly wasn't a lot of young Black people in the rooms getting sober. And so people were coming to me and sticking to me, and I started sponsoring a bunch of people, and they were having successful recovery. And I was like, well, how can I do this professionally? I got to tell you, because my God is awesome, right? Right? We identify with the awesome God, right? Yeah. So my God is awesome. I got to tell you the story for you guys to put it together. I remember on a day I went out on my last drink. I was in the closet. I had a little prayer. I was about to get dressed. And I said, God, if it's meant for me not to drink, then give me a sign. But if I'm supposed to drink like a normal drinker, then you'll let me just behave normally and just have a few drinks and come on back home in peace. And I didn't. I went out there and it was like the shot song was playing in my head all night. I was throwing them back. I got wasted. And so while I was in this process of recovery, I said, there's no way that I'm going to slap my God in the face. Because he started showing me all of these different doors that were opening. He was like, I was like, well, how can I help other people professionally? He was like, why don't you try to get your certified addiction counseling? That's when I was introduced to Dr. Redd. He said, we need brothers like you doing more than just, sponsoring people in AA. We have a lot of mental illness in the community. They need to, you identify with this. They need your help there as well. And so that's when I started to pursue my master's in social work. And that's when I completed my bachelor's in criminal justice, sought out my master's in social work, and how I even got introduced to the mental health profession.
Wow. So what was the thought process behind like Serenity Seekers? Because again, I love this phrase, helping people move from shame and guilt. It is so much about their mental health and substance abuse struggles to move into a place of pride, achievement, and resilience. So what got you to the point of creating like Serenity Seekers, and what is it for people not in the know?
Well, Serenity Seekers is a clothing line that I have. It's Serenity Seekers Worldwide, whose aim is to reduce the stigma associated with mental illness and substance abuse diagnosis and treatment. And what that means is that a lot of us struggle with these issues, but we don't identify the beauty is in the recovery, not having the issue. The beauty is recovering from it. And I just wanted to take some of that reticence and shame away from that, and say, man, you survived this. We survived slavery. We survived Jim Crow. We're going to survive addiction. We're going to overcome. We're going to learn. We're going to live through our mental health illnesses, and we're going to thrive in our lives, right? And I just wanted people to feel that, because I felt once I got sober, there was nothing else that was going to stop me. I wasn't going to let the man stop me. I wasn't going to let the man's plan stop me. I wasn't going to let that system stop me. And I was going to go for mine. And I was like, if I could spark people to lose the shame with it, and let me just tie it into the racism. Somebody told me that Black people don't want reparations because they don't want to admit that they were the descendants of slaves. That's why. Like, wow, it's an association with being a descendant of a slave, right? Man, my people created this thing they call America. Like, we built America, right? Regardless of what we were brought here to do, we built it. We are still thriving and surviving and overcoming. And the same thing with mental illness and addiction. We need to overcome it. I'm here to help people overcome it. And I feel like that's my purpose from my Most High, who is an awesome God. And I hope that answered your question. I think I got a little lost in my sauce.
Listen, Justin, man, you doing so well. I feel like I want to virtually pass the collection plate around, man, because you are preaching. You are certainly preaching to us tonight. And I think one of the things about Serenity Seekers that I truly love is that people can wear something that says, I have overcome something. Because I think there is a great level of shame in saying that, I'm a former alcoholic, right? I'm in recovery, because we view people a little bit differently. And one of the things, Justin, that I actually wrote down in my notes in preparation for tonight, and I can't make this up, I was actually with a client. This was actually last year. At the time, I was working in a rehabilitation center. And the client said to me, Mr. Mills, I would rather be known as a crackhead as opposed to an individual with a mental health illness. And he repeated it. And I looked at him and I said, well, is one, better than the other one? And he said, in my community, it is actually easier to be known as somebody that has some issues with substance abuse as opposed to mental health. And when I think about, unfortunately, a lot of the communities that we have worked in, that we live in, it's like, it's a shame associated with both. And what your clothing line does, Serenity Seeker, it says, look, I'm sober and I feel good about it. And you said, like, the beauty is in the recovery.
The beauty is in the recovery. So some of our best sellers is I don't know if you can see it, is our Motivate shirt. And Motivate works in two ways. It's in English, it means to motivate someone else, but in Spanish, it means to motivate yourself. So, the goal is when you put it on to motivate yourself to accomplish whatever you need to do to change your life. And when people see you, I hope, the goal is for them to see it and become motivated to do the things that they need to change their life into something positive. But we have shirts that say Serenity. We have shirts, and all of them are remixes of logos or things that people are familiar with, just to make it palatable for them. So we have the Serenity / which is the Supreme logo. We have the Recovery, which is a remix of the Rugrats logo. And then we have the Sobriety, which is a remix of the Friends logo. So, all of these things that were, popularized in American media and mainstream America, we just wanted to put the remix on them and let people know who are proud of their recovering selves that they could wear it. And it's not a scarlet letter anymore. It's a badge of honor.
Wow. It's so powerful. So this is one point in the show. I want to go ahead and encourage people right now. You're watching the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio, viewing the show via Facebook Live, and we are live on YouTube as well. LaShonda Williams says, awesome. And she says, that's deep. Now, what I want to do for everybody watching the show, a little bit past, I should say, the bottom of the hour, go to serenityseekers.org, because one of the things that I love to do with the Rashad Mills Show, having these amazing guests on the show, is I want to support them. So for two individuals right now that go to serenityseekers.org, the first two people that go to serenityseekers.org and then inbox me the shirt that you want, just take a picture of it and the size that you want. And thank you, James, the super producer. He put that right in the chat. So just literally click on the link, serenityseeker.org. I want to gift you with 2 shirts. So again, the first 2 people that inbox me and say, Rashad, this is the shirt that I want. I'm supporting Justin's movement. I love what this good brother is actually doing. The shirt color and the size, and it's a part of what I want to gift you with. And then I want you to, if that's not for you, if you never struggled in that particular area, give it to somebody who has in the point of reaching the point of victory, or maybe in that stage of getting to that place of victory where you're saying, I'm no longer picking that drug up, I'm no longer picking that bottle up, so they can wear it proudly. They can wear sort of their blessing, because I think it's a blessing to go through these things and be able to come out on the other side. I truly do. So I want to support what the brother's doing. So serenityseeker.org, the first 2 people, go ahead and do that so we can support what this brother is doing. And then I think it's one heck of a conversation starter. I truly do. I mean, if you're out, somebody says, serenity or sobriety, that sparks a conversation. And I think that with your story, right, and anybody else's story, I think it's a great opportunity to impact and ultimately to change somebody else's life. So again, that's what I want to do. And I'll repeat that again in a few minutes, because I want to make sure that we are supporting what people are doing, especially people that look like you and I, and they're doing positive things. So with that being said, here's an interesting thing. It is a great correlation, Justin, that we know from being mental health professionals, that you have a substance abuse challenge and then also the mental health challenge, right? We know we talk about comorbidity and how they play and factor in to each other. For you, was it more that you had to address the substance abuse issue first, and then that sort of allowed you to work through the depression a little more, or vice versa, or did you have to do it simultaneously?
Before I answer, I just want to say for all the listeners, the tie-dye, I just received a notification that they're sold out. So if one of your choices were the tie-dye collection, so sorry, they have sold out. I just got a notification while we were talking.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, man, because people
somebody probably they're about to be mad at Rashad, right?
Rashad, man, you faking.
You put us on this guy.
Okay.
So I wanted to put that out there. I got the notification. All the tie-dyes are sold out, and so I'm thankful for my awesome guy for everybody buying them. But we'll try to get them.
Let me just say this real quick. Sorry to cut you off. James, if you can actually put that right in the link so everybody can know the tie-dye selection are sold out, which is a blessing from God. The tie-dyes are sold out, but the other ones are still available. And I'm glad that you said that, because I didn't want anybody driving to my front door looking for me. So
right. So, for me, it was something I had to resolve simultaneously, right? And I know, and I learned this, that, there's some people, and they call it Cami and Micah, right? You have chemical abusers with mental illness, right? That means they were chemical abusers who develop a mental illness, like someone who uses methamphetamine and has psychosis as a result of it. And then you have mentally ill chemical abusers. And then those are people who are mentally ill who only use substances because it helps, help them find some stability with their mental illness. And for me, I was probably someone who was a mentally ill chemical abuser, especially being someone who, had undiagnosed PTSD from being a gunshot victim, and we know there's a lot of undiagnosed PTSD in our community. Just if you know people who've been killed, we have to share trauma of the brothers, the police, but we got people in our families, our loved ones and friends who are killed and murdered or assaulted and raped and have things that happen to them. You could get PTSD like that. as well. So, just the undiagnosed PTSD, depression, and anxiety, you know, I had to resolve those simultaneously. And for me, I look at things like this. If you look like at depression, a lot of people drinking the drug to feel happy, right? When you have anxiety, you have a lot of people who drinking drugs so they feel less anxious, less worried. And when you have people with psychosis, a lot of them drinking drug so that they can stop hearing the voices, or stop responding to the internal stimuli, or just it might help them sleep and just finally find a peace. But I think it determines it's not specific for everybody. There's no cookie cutter approach to it. It's rather you're mentally ill and you're a mentally ill chemical abuser, or a chemical abuser that becomes mentally ill. I think and that's the perspective. You have to try to figure that out for everybody. Was there some mental health symptoms that were there before you started using the drugging? Before you started drinking and drugging? If so, then what were the cause of those? Like, what created those mental health issues? Because we need to work on finding a way for you to be able to cope through those once we remove your substance use. Because now we took away your go-to coping skill, right? And if it's somebody who is who has a mental illness as a result of their substance use, then all we have to do is take away the substance, and now now you don't have the mental illness anymore. So I think the perspective is different from everybody, but mine had to happen simultaneously because you were taking away my go-to coping skill, right? And so now I had to face all of my life's challenges head on, and I needed to learn some new skills to be able to cope through those.
How difficult was that to have that main go-to coping skill sort of snatched away, and now I have to find a way to cope without sort of this crutch that has been a part of my life for quite some time? How difficult for you was that to make that adjustment?
Man, it was really difficult to make that adjustment. I think, there's a cliche in recovery that says you have to change your playmates and your playgrounds. And so what I immediately found out is that, recovery and sobriety was a little lonelier than I wanted it to be. Right. I had this core group of friends that I grew up with. And we played in the sandbox and got in trouble, was in the streets together. And now I was the only person breaking away from this group, trying to go through recovery. And I found myself, having to cling on to things like Alcoholics Anonymous and other support groups in recovery so that I didn't feel so isolated. It was difficult trying to navigate life on life's terms without having any release system, right? And that's what really started me going through that process. That's what started making me, well, what can I do besides drinking drugs? What coping strategies do I need to use? Now, mind you, I didn't go to treatment, so I didn't learn this, I didn't go to treatment. I had to pick this up. Like, I need something to fill in the blank here. I need something here. That's where I started picking up on my exercise. I started learning about yoga and meditation. I, got deeper into my faith. I could finally kind of reconcile this relationship with God again. That was a huge part of it. Again, didn't want to slap my God in the face by relapsing, because he was showing me that this was my purpose and my way through things. I started furthering myself in school. I had to fill in the blanks that were no longer, I had to fill that void that drugs and alcohol left, right? And I just had to do it with things that were positive. So you had the unhealthy coping skills, and I had to fill it with positive, healthy coping skills.
What are some of the things, from your opinion, Justin, whether it's from a personal or professional perspective, that can lower the stigma of treatment, like literally walking into an AA or walking into some kind of rehabilitation center? Like, what are some of the things that you feel can kind of lower that stigma for people and make it more normal, quite frankly?
Yeah, I think, and that's why I love my professional network. They need to see people who look like them. They need to know that it's somebody there who understands what it's like to be Black. You could go in any well-known treatment center in America right now, and it is probably, an elite group of insurance holders in one end, and you could go to some of your less popular indigent based treatment centers, and it's full of Black people, right? And that's the difference. There is no middle of the road solution for treatment. And I think that's what makes it hard for any lower middle class and upper middle class people to feel comfortable in treatment, because they go to one of these treatment centers and it's all white, and you go to this other one and it's full of, homeless, indigent, people of color and minorities. And it's hard to feel at home in any of those. So I think what we have to do to bridge the gap is create more affordable treatment centers, right? I told you about a family member who just went to treatment. They were, I think the detox center may have been like 8,000. The 30-day outpatient was maybe like 5,000, and then to get a peer professional may have been a peer specialist may have been like another 3,000 for after their treatment. And that's a lot of money, and people don't have that type of money. So we got to have some really affordable ways for people to come to treatment. I always ask my professionals to think about ways that they could be more, that they can make their practice, more affordable for people. Sliding scale. If you got to take Cash App, if you just got to take some cash from a person, then I think it's our duty and our obligation as Black mental health professionals to make mental health affordable for our people. We got to detach from the stigma that mental health is going to cost you an arm and a leg, so I ain't going to have no arms and a leg, but my soul and my brain going to be good.
Yeah.
So we got to remove the stigma from there.
I think you hit the nail right on the head with that one, because I think there are so many things I feel, particularly with treatment, even more so than mental health. And mental health is pretty high, but I think with treatment is even higher, that it's just like a stigma that I'll have like this label as, a drunk, a junkie, or all of these labels attached to me. And I can't imagine walking into a place, looking around, and I don't see anybody that resembles me. They don't talk, walk, think like me at all. I feel like an outsider. And naturally, I feel like an outsider just taking this first step, to recover. But then when I don't see anybody that looks like me, it's like, let me go, right back out the door. So you're absolutely, you spot on with that. And in your opinion, people of color, are they more inclined to admit to substance abuse illness, or more to a mental health illness?
Oh, certainly substance abuse. I mean,
that's what I think.
Yeah, I'm again, just like your client, it's the, in the hood, it's okay, oh man, they just got a little drug problem, they got a little problem drinking and stuff, but nobody wants to say, hey, no, I had schizophrenia. That's why I was drinking. Even though we may have seen it, we may know it. They might not want to say, man, I had a major depressive episode, and that's what I was going through. And I think for Black people, nobody wants to be that person who's I'm struggling with anxiety. We come from a culture where you have to be strong, where the premise to pull yourself up by the bootstrap and keep going. And sometimes mental illness won't allow you to do that. And so we try to find our way out of that mental illness. And a lot of times the first thing that we know or have seen work for other people is a drink or a drug, right? And I think that's where it's at. That's where the substance use comes in.
Justin, it's really interesting that you use the term bootstrap. I've been listening to Dr. King, right? MLK, quite a bit in the last 3 weeks. And one of the things that he said that always resonates in my mind every day when I wake up and I kind of watch the state of the world right now, that he said Black people have been told to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But what do you tell an individual that doesn't have any boots on? And it was just like a wow moment. And I think that relates to a lot of the substance abuse issues that, we have had or we have seen in our community. And the same thing with the mental health piece, as we're telling people, just, pull yourself up. And they really can't do that. So I think the job that you and I and other trained professionals, like my dear brother, William Batts, who's watching the show, it's so important that we make sure all the avenues, that we check all the boxes to try to help people. It's, I got to take you on pro bono, whatever that looks like. It is so incredibly important that we offer these services to people. So William Batts, speaking of my good brother, he said that he will match my 2 shirts, and that will be for, again, serenityseekers.org. Right. And James Producer is doing an amazing job of making your job really easy. Just click on the link. Literally, that will take you to serenityseekers.org. All the tie-dyes are sold out, but the other shirts have the Serenity We have the one that resembles sort of the friend. So that says sobriety.
That's sobriety. Yep.
What else?
We have one. If you're familiar with Rugrats, the cartoon, we replace Rugrats with Recovery. And then we have, if you're familiar with the Supreme brand of clothing, then we kind of jack that logo and replace Supreme and put Serenity on there.
Got you. So again, serenityseekers.org. There is 4 shirts. The only thing that you have to do is inbox me and Rashad. This is the shirt and the size. And my dear brother William Batts and I are going to go ahead and bless you. We're going to bless you. Hopefully that if this has been a part of your life, a struggle, and now that you can see victory in the recovery, as my good brother Justin said. And I'm going to let you know, man, I like that. And I might steal that. And that might be a phrase that you hear coming from Rashad. But I'm going to give you the credit, but I like that. Yeah. We want to make sure that we are not only supporting you. It's a great conversation start, and then supporting my good brother, Justin. So Justin, we've reached that point in the show, about a few minutes, about 10 minutes. And what I do with every guest on the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio, people watching via Facebook Live and also YouTube Live, I do something that I would like to end, because we talked about some heavy, deep stuff, right? We talked about racism, substance abuse issues, mental health issues. So I want to lighten everybody's load. And the way that I do that, it is called rapid fire. So rapid fire, I'll start off with a phrase, maybe a lyric. I'll start off with a sentence, and I'll ask you to complete it typically in 30 seconds or less. I think we have enough time left in the show where I can do a minute or less. So do you agree to participate in rapid fire?
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask me to freestyle, and I was going to say, I don't know if I got any bars left, but
okay. Well, listen,
let's go.
Justin, great minds think alike. So I always do with people, if you said no to rapid fire, you have to do it because it's my show and you on the show.
Right.
That's the choices are limited. So with the first question, in a minute or less, speaking of bars, today we celebrate the birthday of one of the greatest poets, MCs, rappers to ever touch the microphone. His name is Mr. Tupac Shakur, right? So in a minute or less, I want you to recite your favorite Tupac lyric. If you can't recall the lyric, give me your favorite Tupac song and why. Your time starts right now.
All right. They got me living in this prison of seclusion. Happiness living on the streets is an illusion. Even the smooth criminal one day must get caught. Shot up a shot down with the bullets belly ball. 9mm thinking, kicking about what the streets do to me. Because they never talk peace in the black community. All they know is silence. Do the job in violence. Walk the city street like a rat pack of tyrants. Woo! That was from his first single track. That's how far we go back with it.
And here's the interesting thing. All of that, what he was talking about, is still relevant today.
That's it. Yep.
Man, I don't know if you had my notes handy, because I don't know guess, Justin, that could just jump in and flow right there.
Nah, you can't keep a black man down.
Wow. Incredibly powerful. So let's transition. Today is also the birthday of former First Lady Michelle Obama. In 30 seconds or less, give me a sentence to describe the impact of a black woman in the White House.
Woo! Wow. Women hold up half the sky. So when we really identify what black women mean in our lives, I would ask everyone to, take a moment and think, how important was your mother in your life, right? I think that she was such a refreshing beacon of hope. And so was President Obama for just black people as a whole. And we needed to see, those two beautiful black people in that place, in that certain time of our lives, right? I think she hit people with what has become, when they go low, we go high, right? Like that, whoa, like how real was that, right? Like we here, they taking all these shots at us, man. We in the White House and they still trying to shoot us down, but we go high. We pay it. It costs you nothing to pay it no mind. So I think if we all move like Michelle Obama and President Obama, then I think we'll emulate and model some really respectable, admirable, and honorable brothers and sisters, and we'll be behaving like kings and queens like we really are.
Justin, you are spitting bars, man. This is, bars. Tupac, then Michelle Obama. Women hold up the sky, and then I love that Michelle Obama, when they go low, we truly do go high. So I want to make sure that we are giving this opportunity to support Black businesses. So in 45 seconds or less, give me your favorite Atlanta restaurant and why, and your favorite item to order off of the menu.
Busy Bee Cafe, soul food restaurant right over by the AUC Center, Clark Atlanta University. My favorite, I love the smothered fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, collard greens. You know, I'm a country boy. You can give me that. That's my go-to plate any day, any time of the year. Busy Bee Cafe, very well known. If you haven't been there, go there.
My man, you sound like a true spokesman for Busy Bee Cafe. So
Shout out Busy Bee.
Man, it was truly a pleasure having you on the show. So many gems. And let me just say this. I want to make this up until midnight tonight. 3 more people. One person is interested in the yellow Motivate shirt and also the red hoodie. So we got 3 more opportunities. I'm going to do 2. My great brother, William Batts, just phenomenal guy. He's pitching in. So that's 4 opportunities. So go ahead. If you're watching the Rashad Mills Show on Awesome God Radio, make this up until midnight tonight. So that way that we can support my good brother Justin and what he's doing. So it's 3 more opportunities left, 3 more opportunities for your name to be on something to support what he's doing. It's a great conversation piece. So Justin, serenityseekers.org, right? serenityseekers.org is the name of that website. And if people want to get in contact with you in regards to potentially having you as their therapist, how could they do that?
Well, they can find me on Psychology Today, Justin Murray, Justin Murray. You may want to put in Douglasville or the Atlanta area, and I'll populate. You can reach out to me via email. You can call the office. They'll set up an appointment for you. I do self-pay only, so I try to make myself available and affordable for everyone. Man, feel free to reach out to me, individuals, families, couples. On Instagram, I'm at Serenity Seekers 404. On Facebook, it's Serenity Seekers Worldwide and or Justin Murray. And that's how you can find me.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much again for just sharing some time. Just incredibly powerful story. And definitely be safe in the area right now, just in the world, but particularly what's going on with Atlanta, man. We just certainly appreciate you because I know somebody was touched by hearing your story and seeing the work that you're doing now. We just grateful to have you, and man, just continue to do the Lord's work.
Can I just ask one more thing of all our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely.
You all, please do not let police brutality or police reform be the only thing that our people get from this moment in time. We have to understand how powerful systemic or structural racism is, all the inequalities and disparities that we experience as a result of it. Please, the protesters in your area, the allies on your team, please, share with them the different components of structural and systemic racism. We're gonna have to attack this system head on while we got everybody's attention, while we're appealing to the heart of white humanitarianism. Let's go out here and get everything we owe, really.
So I said that the show was over, but one last thing. I know you're well read. Give me, just tell people maybe some educational tools so they can sort of enhance their knowledge on racism as a whole. Like, what are you currently reading right now? I'm curious.
Right now, my reread is Powernomics by Claude Anderson. Right. I think if we really want to know what we should be asking for and what we should be doing, what we should be asking for and what we could do, it's all in one book right there. It's the National Empowerment Plan for Black America. One read. I would also read, and this is a huge book. This is a huge task to take on. The Blueprint for Black Power by Amos Wilson. It's a big book. I'm not sure if you all are familiar. He's a Garveyite, but it's an excellent book. Let me see one more for the road. I would say A Message to the Black Man, Elijah Muhammad.
Powerful. Again, man, thank you so much for being here on the Rashad Mills Show on Awesome God Radio. We're definitely going to be bringing you back, and just be safe, my brother.
Likewise, King. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. Platform.
I will see you guys next week on the Rashad Mills Show on Awesome God Radio. I appreciate your continued support. Again, last time, serenityseekers.org. 3 more people the opportunity to gift you with some apparel. Great conversation starter. So 3 more people got up until 12 o'clock tonight. I love you guys madly, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you again, Rashad.
No worries, my brother. Appreciate it.
Kings and queens, y'all be good. Be safe out there. Black power.